Wonderful. Good morning again. My name is Jennifer Navarro, and I will be acting commission secretary today, filling in for Maxwell Hartgraves. The following is the October 13th, 2022 704th Arizona Racing Commission meeting taking place via Google Meets, and I will do the roll call. Chair Coolidge.
Present.
Commissioner French-Contreras.
Here.
Commissioner or Vice Chair Olson.
Present.
And Commissioner York.
Present.
Thank you. So we have our quorum. It is 10 on the dot I have, and the floor is yours, Chair Coolidge.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'll go ahead and call to order the 704th Arizona Racing Commission meeting of October 13th, 2022. We'll jump right into action items, and we'll move to B1. If you'll remember, this item was on the last agenda, and we are revisiting it today after some questions that we had from last month's meeting. That said, I will move that we enter executive session to have a quick conversation before discussing publicly.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to move into executive session. I will do the roll call. Commissioner Coolidge.
Yes.
Commissioner French-Contreras. I'm sorry, I did not hear you, Commissioner.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson
Yes.
and Commissioner York.
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. We will move into executive session.
Hi, this is Debbie. Who are you holding for? Hello?
Well, this is the commission meeting.
I believe we are all back from executive session. Is that correct?
Madam Secretary, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Commissioner Coolidge.
Go ahead and call roll. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my audio today.
Okay, I will call the roll. Chair Coolidge,
Present.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Here.
Commissioner and Vice Chair Olson,
Present.
Commissioner York.
Present.
Thank you. We are all present.
Thank you, ma'am. Just as a quick reminder, we are on action item B1, request for Arizona Downs for off-track betting facilities at Fuzzy Sports Grill. I do have a pretty lengthy list of people who would like to speak on this, so I'm going to limit the comments to 3 minutes. Mr. Guessman, why don't you go ahead and kick us off, please?
Thank you, Chair Coolidge. This is Leroy Guessman, with representing the HBPA. I just want to say that over the past, since the pre-pandemic, we've gone from over 60 OTBs to we're currently down to 42. And we really need to add our OTBs back up. This valley is 100 miles long and 100 miles wide. There's got to be room for some more OTBs here. There's a lot of areas not being represented. We'd sure like to see another area be taken care of. The Horseman's purse money at both tracks since the pandemic has declined on our revenue. We just need to have some more OTBs. And I want to also just say the HBPA has had some conversations with Monarch and are continuing to have conversations with Monarch that are hopefully being positive. So I just want to just know that we are making a strong effort to work with Monarch as well. But please consider approving this OTB. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And just to reinforce, I'm not sure what you're working on with Monarch, but appreciate the time spent there. I know myself and the department have spent considerable amount of time trying to bring them to the table. So appreciate the HBPA discussing with them and seeing what we can put together to finally put the Monarch issue to bed. So thank you for that, sir. I will have Mr. Imbornoni. Did I get it?
That's correct. Good morning.
It only took me 7 months, Brian.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. This is Brian Imbornoni, representing TP Racing, doing business as Turf Paradise. TP renews its objection because the request violates the 60-mile rule. Fuzzies is only 10 miles from Turf Paradise, which triggers the consent requirement. The legal rules that apply to the request are clear. ARS 5-112B requires that all simulcasts comply with the IHA. Section 3004B of the IHA requires the approval of 60-mile tracks as a prerequisite to the acceptance of wagers. The policy of the rule is to protect the financial viability of live racing. In addition to the 60-mile rule, TP objects to an OTB at Fuzzies because TP operates an OTB at Charlie's, less than 3.5 miles away. The new OTB would only drain handle from Charlie's. That was TP's experience when it operated an OTB at that location. It is not in anyone's best interests to have redundant, underperforming OTBs 3 miles apart. Third, the Fuzzies application would be contrary to the chairman's policy of not approving new OTBs until the Monarch issue has been resolved. This is not binding on the full commission, but TP has respected the chairman's position and has not opened any new OTBs. Mr. Billingsley disputed that at the last meeting, referencing Third Base in Chandler. That was a bar and grill closed due to the pandemic that reopened at a new nearby location. TP has not opened any new OTBs out of respect for Chairman Coolidge's policy, and we submit that everyone should be playing by the same rules. I'll use the balance of my time to respond to arguments made at the last meeting. Mr. Author argued that under the federal case law, TP has no standing to object. That's not correct. The cases hold that the 60-mile track has no implied right of action. TP can't sue Arizona Downs for violating the law. Those same cases state that this is a proper matter to bring to the commission for enforcement, and I'll specifically reference the Sterling Suffolk case out of the First Circuit. Mr. Author argued that this is controlled by ARS 5-118B. That's incorrect. That statute applies to permittees in a county with a population between 700,000 and 1.5 million. So that applies to Relito in Pima County. It has nothing to do with Arizona Downs. And that statute applies the 60-mile consent rule. So it reinforces the federal statute. Mr. Grille, representing nobody, argued that TP agreed to wait.
Mr. Bornone, we have reached the 3-minute mark. Chair Coolidge, just letting you know that.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'll give you 30 more seconds to wrap it up, sir.
There were comments made at the last meeting that this all seems like needless acrimony. With respect, I don't think that's fair. This is a regulated industry, and TP is simply asking the commission to enforce the law. Again, everyone should be playing by the same rules. In any event, since the last meeting, we made another offer to Arizona Downs to mediate all disputed issues, and it was ignored. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have 5 people signed up to speak from Arizona Downs. Mr. Langhofer, since you're on my screen, do you want to kick us off there? And then should there be additional info that isn't in there, we might grant another 30 seconds or so. But why don't you take your 3 minutes?
Yes, thank you, Chair Coolidge. I'm a little bit embarrassed because I don't have much new to say about this. As you know, this is the 4th time this question has been before the commission. The first time it was resolved in our favor, apparently with the implicit approval of Turf Paradise. The second time their position was rejected on a 2-1 vote. The third time it was rejected on a 3-0 vote. And that's because in Arizona, if you were to apply the 60-mile rule the way they ask for it, there would essentially be no OTBs left, or it would be a monopoly system where Turf Paradise holds all the marbles. And so this commission has chosen not to adopt Turf's construction in the past because it would eviscerate the competitive horse racing environment in the state. That's why the horsemen oppose it. That's why Arizona Downs opposes it. Since our last meeting, though, there have been a couple of developments. First, Turf sued Arizona Downs to try to get its theory of the 60-mile rule adopted by the courts. The court said that it was, quote, highly skeptical of their claims, and Turf Paradise, rightly abandoned its argument. And now they're coming back to you, though, for a sort of a mulligan. I think the idea is that because some member of the commission's changed, maybe they can scrounge up more votes and pull out a win this time. Also, since your last vote, the statute's been amended, and it adopts a version of the 60-mile rule that's right for Arizona. It says that if you're a horse racing track in Tucson, for example, in Pima County, the 60-mile rule applies with some muted effect, but it just does not adopt the version of the 60-mile rule that Turf Paradise asks you to, because again, that would be the end of a competitive environment for horse racing OTBs in the state. I ask you to do what you've done 3 times before and reject their position.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sims, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner and Chairman, Commissioners. We go by the rules. The 60-mile rule is put in to protect racetracks, because if you think about it, if you had a racetrack like Turf Paradise and it was surrounded by the competition, people would be less inclined to go to the racetrack. And people coming to the racetrack is important, and we're going to make a big effort to get people there this year through advertising and so on. But when they come to the racetrack, they get a better feel for it. Number two, there's a chance that they'll decide, let's 3 of us go in and claim a horse and have some fun. That doesn't happen the same at an OTB as when you're there and can see it and feel it. The other thing we've respected is, as my counsel said, is the chairman said, until we get Monarch resolved, that there's no new OTBs. I don't mean a change of ownership, that's a different thing, but we won't increase the amount. We did lose OTBs during COVID. Some 8 or 10 of ours went out of business, and we have not replaced them, honoring the chairman's request that we first do this. We just want to go by the rules of what it says and what we've been instructed by the chairman. So his policy. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. And just since we had you speak, I'll let one of the authors take a few minutes if you guys have anything additional to add.
This is Dave, author. Let me address this specifically to you, Chairman Coolidge. I'm quite confident that Turf Paradise has not discontinued opening new OTBs as some way to honor your alleged decision to not approve any more OTBs. In fact, they've closed many of them as a result of their different business plan that they have. But specifically to you, Chairman Coolidge, I would implore you to reconsider the approach that you've taken with respect to our OTBs as we have brought them up. It appears, I believe you've told us that you're upset that the Monarch signal has not been approved for Arizona, and for that reason, you're not going to approve OTBs until the Monarch signal is approved. As Mr. Guessman indicated to you, and what he didn't say is that we also have been negotiating with Monarch to try to bring them back to Arizona. And I think I know we're making progress. I think we're going to make it happen. But if they show up and we don't have enough OTBs to celebrate their arrival, we're not going to make any money. So I would ask, independent of the 60-mile rule, which we know has been rejected 4 times, for you to reconsider what you've been doing for the last year or so, and go ahead and approve our OTB, notwithstanding our failure to get the Monarch signal, but with the understanding that we're close. I honestly can say, and Leroy, I think, would back me up, we're close. And we're doing it without any assistance from Turf Paradise, which we never expected anyway. And so give us a chance. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. And just to communicate on my end, my decisions are my decisions alone. They don't speak for the commission as a whole. The frustration that I have, and I think everyone's probably heard me say this before, is that a lot of the time over my years on this commission, feels like these racetracks are more interested in opening up off-track betting facilities than they are running live meets. Mr. Imbornoni, your comments about making sure that these OTBs don't prevent or restrict live racing, resonates. And from my understanding of this 60-mile rule, should something get approved, and luckily for both racetracks, I am overruled by other commissioners. Should they decide that they want to vote in a different way, then that's going to be the way that it is. But from my understanding of the 60-mile rule, if that OTB does open, they would violate that 60-mile rule should they collect any bets while live racing is meeting. And that's something that I feel very comfortable with and confident in should it move forward. But that's at least my 2 cents on how this rolls out. it looks like I have a hand raised by unknown. Mr. Johnson, is that you that's trying to get in, or is that someone else?
Yeah, Commissioner, it is me. I actually signed up to speak on this item. I sent my request in a little bit late, so it may not have been received by you.
Go ahead, sir.
So Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Fuzzies again is, I'm just going to be repetitive here on some of the stuff, but Fuzzies is again a location that is 3.5 miles right down the road, less than 3.5 miles right down the road from one of our OTB. It's a tried and tested location that has already been in place. We've already attempted to see if this site can be successful. All it did was cannibalize the handle from Charlie's. Now, Turf Paradise is getting ready to go into a race meet here. We're getting ready to start a 130-day race meet. We need every purse dollar we can get. To cannibalize the network right now is only going to impact this upcoming race meet negatively. So we would ask that you deny it. But I do agree with Leroy Guessman. Mr. Guessman's correct. This is a very large valley. The state needs more OTBs. We should be opening up more OTBs, but not OTBs that are 3.5 miles right down the street from another OTB that's only going to help produce handle and purse money for the upcoming race meet. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Gorey, why don't you take a minute or two?
Thank you, Chairman Coolidge. I'm not here to ask you to approve or deny this request, but what I do want to ask you to do, you've heard a couple of times today, follow the law. Prior to Arizona Downs opening, back when it was Prescott Downs, when they ended up shutting down, we followed 5-111 and 5-112. You as the commission set live dates and dark days. You can set a reasonable amount of dark days for each track, and they get the signal during that time of their live racing and the dark days. And then when the next track opens up, they have their live date and their reasonable amount of dark days. It resolves all these issues. Follow the law. Please ask for outside counsel, as the executive branch and AG's office have taken large donations from a permittee. But if you get counsel on this and look into it, I think it resolves all the issues that you've been running into. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. I'll now open it up to any of my fellow commissioners if they have any comments for the public comment section. Or also here.
Here, I
any
have a
motions.
couple questions or points.
Yes,
So my first question is for the department, and for my benefit, I was not at the last meeting. From the department's perspective, are all the paperwork and requirements in order from that perspective?
Commissioner Olson, this is Brian Duncan. Yes, everything has been turned in. All paperwork, all the requirements have been supplied to you.
Thank you so much.
And Mr. Duncan, just as a follow-up, I think your audio is still a little bit distorted. Commissioner Olson, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, and then if it's appropriate, I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Can I have a motion to move into executive session from Commissioner Olson and a second from Commissioner Coolidge? Commissioner French Contreras? I apologize, I did not hear any response to that.
Sorry about that. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Olson?
Yes.
Commissioner York?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes and we will move into executive session.
Commissioner Coolidge, yes. Well, now we'll go.
Apologies, sir. Thank you. Okay, I do believe we are all back from executive session. I will do the roll call. Chair Coolidge.
Present.
Commissioner French Contreras.
Here.
Commissioner and Vice Chair Golson.
Present.
Commissioner York.
Present.
We are back from executive session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Johnson, I see you still have your hand raised. Is that from the previous request?
Yes, it was. I'm sorry.
No problem. Mr. Nolan, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I just want to bring up one point to the commission too. As a participant here for the last 40 years in Arizona racing, I just wish the commission would understand that the business plan of Turf Paradise was to cannibalize its own on-track handle for the last 20 years by opening OTBs of their own OTBs. Padre Murphy's was one of their own. The Berg, which was an original Gallagher's, is one of their own. Big Dad, all within 5 miles of the facility. They cannibalized their own on-track handle. And the reason they did that was because they had a very favorable contract with Horsemen. The 60-40 cut that Turf Paradise received from the OTB network was a business plan they put in themselves to cannibalize their own facility in favor of patrons going to the OTBs within 5 miles of their own facility. And over that period of time, members, other racing participants stated that that was a diversion of over $20 million of Horsemen's by that favorable contract. Now they don't have such a favorable contract. It's near 52, 48. I'm not quite sure of what they have agreed to. Now they're trying to reopen the facility, which they closed because of their own business plan. And they're talking about cannibalizing a tiny market of Charlies and Fuzzies. Please help us build the business of horse racing in Arizona. This was their own business plan, and we need to move forward. Thank you. I really needed the commission to understand that this was money motivated through a bad contract. Now they don't have it. Now they're crying foul. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jerry Sims. May I respond to that?
1 minute, sir.
Yeah. I don't know where Mr. Nolan gets his facts. And our contract did change a couple of times, but we've always felt that if people are going to go to an OTB, that and it is 5 miles away, that we still get the split and the horsemen get their share. So I really don't know where he comes from with that. Anyway, that's one other point. Using my minute, Arizona Downs knew they were buying a track in Prescott, and they've done everything to come into our market. They knew they were in Prescott, and I wouldn't mind. By the way, we did not show the last year of when they ran. We closed the OTBs the year before in their area within 60 miles. Because we wanted to enforce that law, we would follow it ourselves. And so we did it. We didn't operate OTBs when they ran live. And if we run live during the 2 days a week that we're not running, they can run. But not the same days. And that's what the 60-mile rule's for. Thank you for the time, Chairman and Commissioners.
Understood. Thank you, sir. I will go ahead and open up the floor to my fellow commissioners for any comments or motions.
Chairman Coolidge, this is Commissioner French Contreras. I do appreciate the concern with live racing and getting the attendees there, but honestly, the 60-mile rule isn't it. As to cannibalizing Charlie's or any other business, that's what free enterprise is all about, and it's up to the businesses to advertise and make themselves attractive to the public. We've listened to this. We've gotten legal advice. I've read everything that has been submitted by both sides, and application of that 60-mile rule is not appropriate in this case. So I'm going to make a motion to approve Agenda B1 for Arizona Downs for off-track betting facility at Fuzzy's Sports Grill.
I second that motion.
Excuse me.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner French Contreras to approve Agenda B1, and I have a second from Commissioner York. I will do the roll call. Commissioner Coolidge?
No.
Commissioner French Contreras?
Yes.
Commissioner Olson?
Yes, and Chair, may I explain my vote?
Please.
So I think that based on the commission's past interpretation and application of the rule, I think this decision is consistent with it, and I think it's possible to grant this permit and still see a compliance with the 60-mile rule. And so I won't speak for the other commissioners, but I think I would encourage permittees to just be mindful of any restrictions in 60-mile rule or other laws.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Secretary, we have one more vote.
Yes, sir. And Commissioner York, what is your vote?
Yes.
Okay, I have 3 yeses and 1 no. I believe that motion carries. These items are approved.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move to action item B2, change of ownership of Turf Paradise's off-track betting facility, Tavern, Grille. I'll open it up to the department if they have any issues with the paperwork on that side. It looks to have everything in order on our document.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully you can hear me good now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, we did receive and supplied the paperwork for Tavern Grill ownership change in Scottsdale. The department does recommend approval contingent upon completing an investigation by the department if it is approved. I do have an agent on standby ready to do that if it is approved.
Sounds good. Any questions from my fellow commissioners on this? This is I'm sorry, Mr. Duncan, this is an existing OTB that's just going through a change of ownership, correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. It's just a change of ownership.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything additional to add?
No, I just wanted to be available just in case there are any questions.
Yes, sir.
Chair, I have one question for the department.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So I recognize in the materials that were provided to us, there was a note that some licensing and fingerprinting still needed to occur. Has that occurred yet? Is there an update on that? And if not, is that something we need before granting this license, or is that another condition that needs to be considered?
Yes, Commissioner. I'm going to let Mr. Johnson speak on that. I have spoken to him about it. We are missing a license or two, but we are in the process of doing that right now.
Chairman, Commissioners, Dave Johnson, again, thank you for letting me have this opportunity to speak. When we were notified that Tavern Grille was changing ownership, we reached out to the new owners and informed them that getting licensed was not an option for them. They definitely had a license and they needed to get it done as soon as possible. There were some questions when and where they could get licensed. That's been a little bit of a struggle. So in the time it took me to confirm with Mr. Duncan when the department would be available to license them, since then, some of the owners have left the state. They will be back at they will be back next week, and they have plans to come in and everybody get fingerprint licensed at that point in time. So we would ask that you would allow us to continue to operate. Tavern Grille is one of the top locations in the state, produces over $250,000 in purse money, and that is very important to this upcoming race meet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for the information. And I don't know if the Assistant Attorney General is on the line, and if he thinks we need to go into executive session, but if there's a requirement that we need this before moving forward, or if this is something we can conditionally approve.
Madam Commissioner, if you'd like to go into executive session, we could. It's totally up to you.
I can go ahead and make a motion.
I'll second that.
I'll move that we conditionally approve the change of ownership for Turf Paradise off-track betting facility, Tavern Grille, provided they supply all the prerequisite documents and fingerprinting as needed. I will put the onus on the department to confirm that those items are done in a timely fashion so we don't see any issues moving forward.
Thank you. I have a motion by Commissioner Coolidge, and I will take the roll. Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras?
And Madam Secretary, can we actually pause this? I don't believe I received a second to my motion.
Chair Coolidge, I'll second.
I
your,
apologize. Thank you.
motion as praised.
No problem.
And thank you for that. So I will recall the roll. I have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras?
Yes.
Commissioner Olson?
Yes.
Commissioner York?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. Those items are approved.
Okay, we're going to drop down to B3, which is the simulcast agreements pursuant to ARS 5-112U for Arizona Downs. We have 1 and 2, Delta Downs and Evangeline Downs, and then Mahoning Valley. So, Mr. Duncan, give us the update on missing items for these, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I supplied and reviewed the contracts. All is in order, but I would like to update you on an item on B3A1 and 2, which is Delta Downs and Evangeline. Back in March, Arizona Downs inadvertently requested a termination date prior to the end of the actual 5112U contract, which is on the contract ending on December 31st, 2022. And it was caught after the fact. I'm just putting it back on the agenda for clarification. The division would recommend that the 5112U contract be approved for all 3 items for Arizona Downs.
This is Commissioner French Contreras. I'll make the motion.
Floor is yours.
I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item B3A as to Arizona Downs, 1 through 3.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioners. We have a motion and a second, and I will take the roll. Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras?
Yes.
Commissioner Olson?
Yes.
Commissioner York?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries, and those items are approved.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll move to 3B for Turf Paradise, Keeneland, Fairgrounds, Oak Lawn, Turfway, and Tampa Bay Downs. Mr. Duncan, any additional updates on your end?
No additional updates. The division would just recommend that the 5112U contracts be approved for items B3, B1 through 5 for Turf Paradise.
Like everything's in order on my end. Any questions or motions from my commissioners? That'll move that we go ahead and approve B3B for Keeneland, Fairgrounds, Oak Lawn Park, Turfway Park, and Tampa Bay Downs.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and I will take the roll. Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras?
Yes.
Commissioner Olson?
Yes.
Commissioner York?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries, and those items are approved.
We'll move down to B4, which is the simulcast horse racing import signals pursuant to IHA Section 3004A3 for Arizona Downs, for Delta Downs, Evangeline Downs, and Mahoning Valley. Mr. Duncan, with the 5112U approvals, are there any other missing items on this agenda?
For items 1 through 3 for Arizona Downs, there are no missing items.
Looks like everything's in order on my end. Any questions, comments, or motions from my commissioners? That said, I'll move that we approve simulcast horse racing import signals, IHA Section 3004A3 for Arizona Downs, Delta Downs, Evangeline Downs, and Mahoning Valley, please.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and I will take the roll. Commissioner Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
I'm sorry, I had an interruption. Can you repeat that?
Commissioner, we have a motion on, I'm sorry, Secretary, do you want me to read
no,
it?
sir, please go ahead.
Commissioner, we have a motion on the floor to approve the Simulcast horse racing import signal pursuant to IHA section 3004A3 for Turf Paradise. Or excuse me, are we on 4A? I believe
Yeah,
we're on
4A.
Yeah.
for Arizona Downs, Delta Downs, Evangeline Downs, and Mahoning Valley. The item has been motioned and seconded, and we are going through the votes.
Thank you. I approve that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner York?
Yes.
Okay, this motion carries. Those items are approved.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll drop down to 4B for Turf Paradise's horse racing import signals for Keeneland, Fairgrounds, Oaklawn Park, Turfway Park, and Tampa Bay Downs. Mr. Duncan, now that they have the 112, do we have any additional items we need to be made aware of?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Number one, Keeneland, the Breeders' Cup is complete now. Items 2 through 5 are still missing the host commission and host horseman approvals. The division would recommend that item 1, the Breeders' Cup from Keeneland for turf, be approved, and items 2 through 5 be conditionally approved pending the rest of the documents being received from the permittee.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments, or motions from my commissioners?
Chairman, I can make that.
Go ahead, ma'am.
So I make a motion to approve B4B for Turf Paradise with number 1 being approved and number B2 through 5 being conditionally approved pending the receipt of the remaining documentation.
I would only advise that we make 2 different motions on that.
Great.
If
Okay.
you don't mind.
Okay. My apologies.
No problem.
I'll make a motion then to approve agenda item B4B as to number 1, Keeneland.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I will go down the roll. Commissioner Coolidge,
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries, and those items are approved.
And then I'll make a motion then to approve item B4B 2 through 5 conditionally upon receipt of the remaining documentation to the staff.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a on the roll. Commissioner Coolidge.
The only thing that I would add to that, I'm hoping that we might be able to make an adjustment to that motion to let the department expedite those materials so they don't have to come back to the commission.
I'll amend my motion accordingly.
Can we, I'll second it, and then if we could go through the approvals again, I think that'd be great.
Thank you, and I must apologize in advance. I think I'm having some network issues, so if there's anything that's unclear, please let me know. Going down the roll, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Coolidge.
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras,
Yes.
Commissioner Olson,
Yes.
Commissioner York.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries, and those items are approved.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll drop down to the information reports. Dr. Gale, would you mind giving us an update on your end?
Thank you, Chair Coolidge, Commissioners. Just to review, we did have a safety meeting in September. In attendance were Commissioners French Contreras and York, as well as Department of Gaming Leadership, Track Management, and Horsemen. We mainly went over the Arizona Downs meet. We answered a number of questions about our procedures in reviewing these cases of breakdowns or fatalities, and went over risk factors that influenced the breakdowns that we did have at Arizona Downs. I am planning on having a pre-meet safety meeting with the folks down at Turf Paradise. Same group is welcome to attend. That invitation will probably go out for a meeting in the next 2 weeks, so we can review the past Turf Paradise meeting as well as plan for the upcoming meet. Just to go back through the last 12 months, the period from October 1st through September 30th encompasses all of the complete race meets for all Arizona tracks. In that time, we had a total of 64 horse deaths at Arizona tracks. 13 of those were due to illness or backside incident. 32 were on the track during races. 19 were during morning training hours. Of the 32 that were during races, 21 of those were thoroughbred horses and 11 were quarter horses. The rate for thoroughbreds per 1,000 starts for the entire state of Arizona was 2.72. Arizona Downs had 2 thoroughbreds break down during their meet out of 920 starts. So the rate for the Arizona Downs meet was 2.17. Again, the national average for 2021 was 1.39. Horses have been arriving to Turf Paradise since the end of September. Training began October 4th. The track appears to be in good condition, and I have no incidents to report to date. I'd be happy to take any questions.
No questions here. Just applaud our commissioners for joining that meeting and appreciate them making the time for it. Mr. Gore, you have a comment?
Yes, I did have a question, and Chairman Coolidge, you may remember this. May 13th of 2021, there was a motion that you made, and I seconded, that each track was to provide a track maintenance report monthly on the Friday before a racing commission meeting. I do not believe anyone has seen such reports from the tracks, and I'm curious as to why it hasn't been done, or if it's being done, and why they're not being discussed in the commission meetings. Thank you.
Appreciate bringing that up, sir. I will take that upon myself to bring back to the department. Mr. Director, I think I've seen him on here. If you would mind making that a priority, I would also like to see that as well. Mr. Corey, thank you for the reminder. Commissioner?
Yes, Chair Coolidge, I would like to make a statement about the safety meeting. Do you want me to, can I do it now, or do you want me to wait until?
The floor is yours.
Okay, great. So as Dr. Yale had indicated, I was in attendance at that meeting, and there's a lot of good data coming out of the work that's being done. During that meeting, though, Commissioner French-Contreras did make what I thought was a very good point, in that this data is good. It's, you know, things that we need, but the really key important question is, what do we do with the data? And so I just wanted to put that out there for everyone, because I thought it was a really good statement. And we spend a lot of time on important issues that are very legal. They're based in legal disputes. And I just hope eventually we can get to the point where that's the minimal topic, and that we're focusing more on how to make these tracks safer and how to make the horses safer. Because I think without that, long term, the industry faces a really big challenge.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
That's all.
If I could make one more statement in my report.
As always, Dr. Gill.
There is a metric that, again, it's a data point. However, it's a way to measure the effectiveness of our pre-race exams, and that we've been doing over the summer and will continue at the upcoming meet. And the metric we were keeping track of was how many horses were getting scratched on pre-race exams for lameness, as opposed to how many were getting scratched on the track for the same issue. We did find that we were able to scratch the majority of horses on pre-race exams rather than having them go to the track and find out at that time that there's a problem. Again, there's some problems that don't show up until a jockey is on the back of the horse. But we did find that our pre-race exams were being effective in detecting lame horses. We certainly hope to continue that trend going forward.
That's great. Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions? We'll go down to the budget report. Director Casillas or Mr. LaForest?
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for your time. Our spend is within our appropriated limits, and our revenues that the agency are bringing in is more than enough to match that spend to ensure health going forward. As such, I have no concerns at this time.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gassman, can you give us an update on the International Horse Racing Integrity Act, please?
Yes, Chairman Coolidge and Commissioners, Leroy Gussman representing the National HBPA. Not a lot to report. We did get on our case with the Sixth Circuit Court. They have scheduled oral arguments for December 7th. So that is moving forward. Also, with the help of our lobbyists in Washington, D.C., and Texas Congressman Gooden, we have introduced a bill that would stop HISA from being implemented until January 1st, giving time for the lawsuits and giving time for HISA to get a little more organized. The other thing I'd just like to say is I understand the department and the state's position on HISA. No one has a more dislike for HISA than myself. But however, it is here and we have to deal with it. And the way we've been dealing with it is causing a lot of problems. The track at Arizona Downs has got 3 citations facing them for not voiding a claim. We have a person in Arizona Downs that has been confiscated by HISA because the jockey whipped the horse too many times. We've had numerous citations to jockeys for whip rules, and we've had citations to a couple of owners and a trainer for not registering. So it's here. We're getting citated by that. We're getting citations from HISA, but the state doesn't want to help enforce the rules, and it's putting the horsemen, the jockeys, the vets, the farriers, and even your own state employees in a terrible position going between the 2 rules. Who do we follow? Which set of rules do we follow? Anyway, that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate where you're coming from and understand the situation that you're in. So I always appreciate the updates and very helpful for us. Any questions for my fellow commissioners?
No, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, we'll drop down to the committee reports. American Greyhound Racing.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Aaron Feinberg for American Greyhound Racing. No major updates this month, but I did want to report that I met with Mr. Duncan from the Department of Racing and did turn in our 3-year permit application. So I look forward to going through that process with the department and ultimately getting on the commission agenda for your hopeful expected approval. So that's all I have for this month, but did want to make that known. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate the update and glad that's moving forward. Mr. Weiss, do you want to give us an update for Arizona Downs and Rito, please?
I would be happy to. This is Mike Weiss, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Appreciate the time to talk. On behalf of Arizona Downs, the race meet is finally over, and I was very comfortable, feel that the race meeting finished up well. We did open with some major changes, as Mr. Gessman just explained, ISA showing up, and we were right there, with our foot in the door there at the beginning of it. So it was an interesting learning curve there, but I do appreciate everybody's cooperation. Personally, I do want to mention Loretta Brasher from the Quarter Horse Association and Mr. Leroy Gessman from the HPBA. I did have the pleasure of working side by side with them. Feel we worked very well together, felt more as a team with similar goals to make this meet a success, both for the licensees and the horsemen. The report continued as the season ended. Arizona Downs did extend our training and scheduling time to accommodate the horsemen's transition to get into Turf Paradise. And a quick shout out, I have to say, for one of our university students that worked the season, gives me a little smile. If any of you saw Haley Schiffer's graduation senior pictures, her graduation photos from the University of Arizona, she painted her cap, or what they call the mortar board, with the display of the starting gate with horses breaking out saying she's off, but above the gate said University of Arizona down, which was really, I got a kick out of that. So thank you on that. Mr. Chairman, would you like me to continue and do Ritos also?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, on behalf of Rito, again, Mike Weiss, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, we may be months away. However, this year we are getting a head start in organizing and cleaning and planning with a focus on racing, safety, students, and entertainment. When I say entertainment, it's a celebration because Rito's, the birthplace of quarter horse racing, is having its 80th year anniversary. 80-year celebration. 1943 sounds crazy, doesn't it? I do understand a few commissioners have planned a field trip to the old facility. I apologize, I will not be there at that time because I'm back home in Florida finally. But I do encourage those visiting to imagine the history of the birthplace of quarter horse racing, as well as every single area, as every live day, wall to wall, elbow to elbow, throughout the event. Again, back to the University of Arizona Racing Symposium early December. I've already had students and professors reaching out to me. I expect maybe a dozen to 20 students working to run the show this year. And I've had, so many stories and success stories that I got to document sometime soon about ex-students, how they're thriving in the sport. And just as important, they seem to constantly shout out, reach out, give thanks for their experience and the friendship. So thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments? We'll drop down to county fairs, please. How about Turf Paradise?
This is Jerry Sims, Chairman Coolidge and Commissioners. Want to just tell you about some work that my general manager did a great job on this summer. Steve Woods is known in the industry, and everybody appreciates and values his opinions. And he's been the general manager. He's been the manager for the tracks at Santa Anita, Del Mar, and other places even around the world. He works for us now. He did last season also, not full time, part time. And he's the one that worked on our track and took it all the way down to the stones and rebuilt the whole track this season. The turf course, very deep rooted, so we should have a real strong turf course. On the dirt track, we put in 250 new panels. It needed to be replaced. We have 800 horses on the track now. By the end of the week, we should be over 1,000. And we plan to have between 17 and 1,800 horses for the meet. We cleaned, redid actually the 10 bathrooms on the backside, and a lot of the major lifting that had to be done is the piping was from 1956. from the original when the track was started. All that was taken away and replaced with new piping. Reading my notes, we have about 40 pieces of rolling equipment, tractors and the like. We have 7 tractors and 4 water trucks amongst those, and everything on all of our pieces of equipment were redone that needed it by Dynamic Diesel. We brought them in because they have a good sized staff and they come to the track and work on them right there. Let's see. The public address system was fixed because there were certain parts of the barn area that were not getting the sound, the speakers. It turns out it's a lot of the underground wiring. That has all been done. The grandstand and food. We've got a great company we brought in. They do other places and tracks too. And they're doing the food concessions. So the entire clubhouse, which is 1,300 seats maybe, that whole area is going to be menued like it used to be. The backside kitchen is already open because we have trainers there, and they're running that. And the first 2 levels of the grandstand will also have service. That's about it that I wanted to say. Thank you for the time to explain this or tell you about it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, did you want to say something?
We have no phone service. Mr. Chairman Coolidge, thank you, commissioners. Just to amplify what Mr. Sims just delineated for you, this is Turf Paradise's, when we open, is going to be the 66th season. And we're 22 days away for those counting. And I want to thank Mr. Sims because during the summer when all this work was being planned and done, he gave me the green light to take care of these things. And it's not just a GM that does it. I have a staff here that's very dedicated and loyal, and the results so far have been what we want, not only to our standards, but also in doing things that are important to the horsemen and make them feel better about the track at which they're racing. And of all the different projects, the number one thing for us is that race, and specifically the dirt track. And right now, the trainers have been training on it since October the 4th. And we have a new track superintendent. And my instructions to him have been very simple. Whatever it is you're doing to it, keep doing. Because the horsemen are singing the praise, and that's rare when they do that. And the combination of having Steve Wood, who's the consultant, and all the pre-work he did during the summer, and now the maintenance of that work as we move into the race meet. So, we open November the 4th. We're excited about it for a lot of reasons, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. We'll go down to the Optional Industry Stakeholder Association updates, Arizona Counties Racing Association. Arizona Quarter Horse Racing Association. Arizona Thoroughbred Breeders Association. The HBA.
Yes.
I get the phone door.
Guild. Okay. Dropping down to the commission reports, if any of my fellow commissioners have any actions. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Any of my fellow commissioners have anything to add to any
directions for the department moving forward or matters to be placed on future agendas.
Chairman Coolidge, Commissioners, no thank you.
And
Good morning, Chairman Coolidge.
please identify yourself.
This is Daryl here, the Western Region Manager for the Jockeys Guild. And
Go ahead, sir.
good morning, and members of the board. I've been in touch with Vince Francia and management from Turf Paradise, just concerning safety issues with Turf Paradise, and we've been working close together. So I'm glad that things are moving in the right direction. It seems with Turf Paradise. More than I've seen in years. So it's a good feeling. But and I'm gonna go over there next week and because there are still some concerns with the inside rail. They have lifted the turf course rail, so that's a good thing. And with the new with the machinery now, it seems like things are going really well. And with the concession stands opening, and so things are going in the right direction. I'm very pleased. And the insurance, the on-track coverage is in place for the jockeys also. So I'd like to be included in, with the safety meetings. So who's ever organizing that, please include me also. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I only have Mr. Nolan scheduled to speak for call to the public. Mr. Nolan, how about 3 minutes? Mr. Nolan, you're on mute, sir.
Good morning, and thank you, Commission Chair, and good morning to the Commission, Department of Gaming and Racing officials. Specifically, I'd like to thank Commissioner York, your attempt to bring an item forth for a future agenda to just discuss even the repositioning of call to the public before commission reports so that things could be fresh in your mind, that things that people do bring that are relevant could be put on agendas. Thank you so much, Commissioner York. We have seen this today. Commissioner Chair asked to revisit one that he had brought that has never come on an agenda item. And then another the same sitting commissioner asked for other items to be brought on commission agendas that have just not seen up. One in particular is the request for more transparency in the litigations that are pending. One specific that's 6 years ongoing and still has minute entries. The cost to the taxpayers is enormous. We need more transparency on all the litigations that are pending. It's due to our to wagering public and to the racing participants. We deserve to hear the impact, the negative impact that these litigations are having on our industries in the state, and the cost to the state of Arizona in these matters. I'll update you on the one that concerns that the Arizona Racing Commission. It's Ron Sims versus the Racing Commission, case LC 2016-000505. It had a minute entry come out on September 21st. I'll read the first paragraph in the order. The parties are directed to file simultaneously opening briefs of 20 pages or less by October 24th, and simultaneous response briefs of 20 pages or less 30 days thereafter. No replies unless the court ordered by the court. The court will also determine later if there will be oral arguments. These litigations directly affect racing. I hope you put them on there. Commissioner York, thank you for at least knowing that everything isn't deaf that I've heard. Some of the things that I brought to you are very hard to discuss because they're very uncomfortable for those that are avoiding to put these on agendas. These are some of those other ones are the budget concerns. There's lack of vets, there's lack of proper security, there's more. They just need to be
Nolan, there
addressed.
has been 3 minutes, just to let you know that.
Okay, one last thing. In item B1, Council for Turf Paradise mentioned enforce the rules. And he mentions these names, Monarch, Monarch, Monarch. Monarch's been here 2.5 years. They have made a devastating impact in our state. What do? If they are providing some service, they're interrupting service for the wagering public and the horsemen and the state by not being able to wager where tax revenues could benefit all of us. And under our 19.2.106A1, please, AG, follow the lead of the state of New Hampshire, who is requiring them to do so. I thank you. I wish 3 minutes isn't really enough. That's kind of why I wish we could do it before commission reports. Ms. York, thank you. Commissioner York, thank you. I'm at least being heard a little bit. I appreciate your
The next
time.
scheduled commission meeting will be held at 10 a.m. on Thursday, November 10th, 2022, likely via Google Meet and subject to change based on a quorum. That said, I would hear a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn and a second to adjourn this meeting, and I will call the roll. Commissioner Coolidge?
Yes.
Commissioner French Contreras?
Yes.
Commissioner Olson?
Yes.
Commissioner York?
Yes.
Thank you. I have the time now is 11:29, and this meeting is adjourned.